The headline just crossed here. What do we know so far?
Yeah, so this decision isn't entirely surprising. When they had oral arguments over this about a week ago, it seemed like the justices were very receptive to the idea that this law was constitutional. Stepping back here, last year, bipartisan Congress supported this law. President Biden signed it into effect, and basically Sunday, what this requires is that if there's not a sale of TikTok by the Chinese parent company, it's effectively banned in the United States. Now, there's a lot of nuance in that. Incoming President Trump has said he wants to keep TikTok alive. He's also said in a filing to the Supreme Court before this decision that he wants to be able to cut a deal. He essentially wants to be the person who's going to be able to figure out any kind of potential sale here, which this law would require. And now that Trump will be coming into office on Monday, it's effectively going to come to his desk. So as the chief executive of the United States, he and his Justice Department will ultimately be responsible for enforcing this law. So there is leeway here in terms of what happens. Now, on the other side, there's also what TikTok and ByteDance, the Chinese parent company, is ultimately going to do here. The company has said they're not really interested in this sale. So there's a chance that the company may just decide not to stick around here in the United States. But there are a lot of moving pieces here. We've also seen some reporting that there's some discussion about potential buyers, and the Chinese government has been considering certain options here as well, including Elon Musk. This was reported by Bloomberg just a few days ago. So there's a lot of question marks here. It's not entirely surprising the Supreme Court issued this opinion, which effectively pitted national security concerns. The United States Congress said TikTok poses a national security concern because Americans' data could be effectively hoovered up by the Chinese government, or propaganda could be spread vis-a-vis TikTok, versus free speech concerns, which was the other side. The company effectively said those national security concerns are non-existent. It's effectively an American company, TikTok is, that's headquartered in California, even if the parent company is ultimately in China. Plus, you had numerous content creators that rely on TikTok. Approximately 170 million Americans, use TikTok for their businesses, for other things, saying this is our right to have free speech and should be banned. The Supreme Court today went with that national security argument. They said Congress had the right to pass this law. It wasn't unconstitutional. And here we are 4 days before Donald Trump will take office, and it's going to come effectively to him in terms of how to enforce it.
So if you think about, from here, the next critical moments for TikTok and the 170 million people who use it, what are they?
Well, I mean, I think one thing is how it's not just TikTok involved here, but it's also all of the companies involved in allowing TikTok to be accessed by 170 million people. Effectively, you have a law right now on the books, and as Caroline mentioned, I agree 100% that Congress may step in, and this is really ultimately going to be kind of down to the wire here, and there's lots of moving parts. But as it stands at this very moment, there are apps out there. There are platforms out there where this app exists that are also going to have to decide how are they going to treat this in the interim. So the next kind of step, I would say, from a legal perspective, is we're going to need to see how these companies that actually make TikTok available are going to respond. And I think, they may try to also seek some clarity here because, this is a very broad law. This is a law that, effectively says that this app is a national security threat. Mm-hmm. And how that's interpreted by all of the companies involved here is going to really play out over the next couple days. And we don't know what's going to happen, as Caroline mentions, with Congress in the next couple days. Right. So there's a lot of question marks as this is all playing out. And companies, as we know, don't like to put things like that to chance, right? They don't want to be on the wrong side of something like this. So we're going to have to see how they respond.
Let's talk about the national security piece, because, of course, I've said before on this program, national security, that's a broad church. The government's argument, as you lay out, is that this app creates a national security risk. What proof did they offer for that?
They didn't. So there wasn't in the actual Supreme Court case or in the law itself specific examples laid out. I would say, though, that there were numerous friend of the court briefs from prominent politicians who did vote on this law or would be enforcing this law at a state level. So, states' attorney generals and others in support of this. So, the fact is, there was not this moment where they said, "Look, we have found a smoking gun that data from Americans is being hoovered up and sent over to the Chinese government." It was a little bit of, this is a national security concern. We are telling you as Congress and as the executive that this is a national security concern, and you need to basically listen to us, and we're passing a law in a bipartisan fashion. As Caroline mentioned, it's a major about face what we're seeing right now in many respects.